All right, bam, we good. So welcome back, Liberation Minded Media. You already know, straight dizzle. So before I get started, let me just make a couple announcements. I didn't really plan on going live tonight. I really was going to go live on a whole different subject, but I decided to push that back to Thursday. And we're going to get into something called Operation Chaos. That's going to be Thursday. We're doing it live. And I'm probably going to be dropping a couple throwback videos tomorrow. So originally this channel was actually my backup channel to my Nettercat channel, which got taken down. And I really never got this channel popping because once that channel got taken down, I was just like, done with YouTube for a minute. But once in a while on my memories, I'll see videos that I did on Facebook pop up. Some of those were also put on my last YouTube channel. Or sometimes I'll see that people have uploaded some of my stuff on their YouTube channels. So when I see that, sometimes I realize like, okay, some of that stuff's still relevant. And, when I feel like that, then what I do is I just go ahead and load them up on here as throwbacks. And I do that for the reason of not only one, if it's still relevant, put it back in the universe, but also because I want to make sure that people understand that I have a resume that goes back years of articulating this same narrative. It ain't something I just started jumping on. It ain't something that just because other people are doing, I'm trying to get into this fad. This is something that I've been on. Black I Stand Radio, my Facebook, my Nettercat YouTube channel from the past. I've been on this. I've been involved in activism for years. And that's something that you're going to see a common thread amongst those who call ourselves new black media and those of us who use our social media platforms to try to inform, motivate, inspire, mobilize, or educate our people on certain subjects. So that's why I put some of these throwbacks in there once in a while. But today, what I want to do today is because those of us who consider ourselves FBA or ADOS, African American, Black Americans, however you want to put it, we have a lot of smoke for these coons and these tethers that go against the grain and that undermine us. But I've stated before, just because someone is an immigrant does not make them a tether, does not make them in opposition to us or make us in opposition to them. So we're going to give credit where credit's due today. So what I'm going to do is somewhat of a reaction video to a video that I seen on YouTube from a channel called Evie Anita. And it's going to demonstrate not only the fact that we do have those who are stand up or have the capability of being on code, but also it just goes to show that a lot of the ones that are on code, they've taken a page from FBA, and that's okay. That's okay. We ain't mad at them. Look, if watching us and how we have been dealing with our situation for these past several centuries and being bold enough to speak up against white supremacy, if that is something that you can use a page in what you're trying to do, look, we're all for it. Matter of fact, we want more of it. So when you see FBA backing away from Pan-Africanism, understand why that is. 100 years. No exaggeration. 100 years we tried the Pan-Africanism. We tried to build with those of the diaspora to no avail. Because if our sentiments and efforts were mutually respected, we would be in a whole different light right now. So we backed out of it because we need y'all to hold your weight. And until that happens, there's really no action on that. But anyway, let's go ahead and check this out. I want to play this video, pause it here and there. This sister said some real shit, and I want to go ahead and give her props. I want to give, because like I said before, there's been attack on Black thought, on our resistance, on our struggle for justice. And they're using people that look like us as the front line of that attack. And unfortunately, there hasn't been too many people from the diaspora, from the continent, that's speaking up against those who are coming against us. But I still want to give some props and some shout outs to those who are stand up and on code. And let's start off with this sister right here.
I used to hang out with Black Americans, but what surprised me most is that I felt no connection with Black Americans.
So I'm just gonna let her keep on.
And that surprised me. Now I know at the time I didn't. I felt no connection with Black Americans because Black Americans were woke.
So she said she didn't feel a connection with us because Black Americans are woke. Now I'm gonna tell you the truth. I don't really like that terminology, woke, because I understood when that terminology started becoming popularized, it was really just an attack against what we were saying, which was conscious. That was kind of like a whitewashed, corporatized version of what we were doing on the grassroots with the conscious community. They turned it into woke. But basically what she is saying is that because we are familiar with our surroundings and we're familiar with our struggle, we're familiar with our history, which they're going to go into a little bit later, she didn't feel that connection. So this is something that you have to understand, because a lot of people from the continent and from the Caribbean feel the same way. They don't feel that connection. And they're going to go a little bit deeper in this video of why they don't feel that connection. But I'm going to go ahead and let her continue.
Black Americans had looked at their oppressor in the face. They had tunnel vision, just like Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela looked at his oppressor in his face, and you know what? He had tunnel vision. They knew what was bringing them down. In Africa, we don't have tunnel vision. We don't know what is oppressing us. Because you know what? Because slavery just changed. It didn't go away, it just changed. So most people in Africa, we feel oppressed. We don't know what is oppressing us.
So, that's pretty interesting, because when I interviewed Umar Johnson for the first time a few years ago on Black Us Stand Radio, when we were speaking about this, he said basically the way we go is the way the continent goes. In other words, we're going to be the forefront. Matter of fact, they're going to take cues from us. The same way our culture influences the world, so does our struggle. See, this is why the powers that be continues to put roadblocks in front of our struggle and try to derail it and put their own controlled opposition at top or on mainstream to undermine what we're doing. Because they understand that if we can get people pop locking in Czechoslovakia, if we can get people breakdancing in Japan, then we have the potential and the capabilities to influence people even when it comes to our struggle. And we've seen that manifest itself in 2020 with the Summer of Rage. Because we had people all across the board that was backing us all around the world. And that's what they feared. And that's why it's such a detriment when these tethers come out against us, because they're supposed to be on our side. So she's letting you know that she didn't have a connection because they weren't connected to the struggle, because the same type of propaganda used against us was used against them. The thing is, we broke those mental chains sooner than they did. And that's why we have opposition.
You see, those children in the Congo that are mining all of the coltan with their bare hands, they don't know that at the top of the chain is a white man. They're children that...
Now, let me set the stage for this. I should have said this at the beginning. She's actually a comedian who was actually doing a set and decided to say this. She just went to the left and said, fuck it, let me just go ahead and get this out. And this is why you're not going to really hear people like cheering her on too much, because this was supposed to be a comedy set, but she ended up using the platform as a way to say some real shit.
That are picking the cocoa, right? They don't actually know that the person at the top is a white man. I found out the farm next to my father's farm now belongs to Unilever. That's right. People in Africa cannot afford to buy land anymore. Do you know why? Because slavery never ended. It still carries on. You know, they dump all their toxic waste all over Africa. All your babies' nappies are all over Africa. People cannot farm their land anymore. Do you know? And you know what? Like, here's a fact. 3/4 of the people in Africa are under the age of 30. 3/4 of the people in Africa are under the age of 30. Majority of people in Africa have never heard of slave trade.
Think about that.
Majority of people in Africa have never heard of colonialism.
Think about that. See, that sounds crazy to us, right? But the fact is, we know more about the history in Africa and colonism than they do. She's telling you this right now. See, they didn't teach this kind of stuff to them. So all they know is that because it's dusty and bombed out where they're at, when they get over here, they feel like they made the promised land. So they have no other reference point. So they gravitate to those who they feel are the savior. And they look at us like we're troublemakers and we're just rebel rousers for no reason. Rebels without a cause. Because they didn't get laced. In fact, they get programmed before they get a chance to get here in most cases. So she's letting you know, hey, we don't even know about these kind of things. We don't really even know the depths of the history of colonization that happened in our own land. That's what they're saying. That's what she's saying right now. Which is deep when you think about it. So when you wonder why they don't have that connection, why they come over here not feeling like they should be joining us in the struggle, it's because they feel like they made it. Because they don't have a reference point. They don't understand that the reason why they feel like they need to flee their country is because of the destruction and exploitation that happened by the same people they're fleeing to.
Majority of people in Africa only ever see white people when they're coming to save us. So majority of people in Africa fundamentally believe this. I gotta take that one back. Look at this. Listen to this. To save us. So majority of people in Africa have never heard of colonialism. Majority of people in Africa only ever see white people when they're coming to save us. So majority of people in Africa fundamentally believe this. They fundamentally believe that white people are nice. They fundamentally believe that white people will do anything to save them. They fundamentally believe that if they walk across the Sahara Desert, cross perilous seas, the nice people in Europe will be welcoming them with big open hands. I say, if you don't want people from Africa coming to your continent, let them know the real you. That's right.
So understand, y'all. And salute to Black Cloud Miami TV. Appreciate you for the pull up and the tap in. So what she's saying, and this is something that, I've said before, other people have said before, is the narrative that they get is purposely skewed in order to make them feel like their savior is in white folks. Which now you'll understand why they've built the biggest statue of white Jesus ever in Nigeria. So she's saying straight up, We only see white people when they're saving us. So their reference is different. They don't have the history to know, like, why are there so many poor people in their countries, even though they have more mineral resources than anywhere per capita. And this just doesn't just go for Africa. This goes for Haiti. This goes for Jamaica. This goes for the DR. This goes for South America. So they don't feel a connection with us. This is why they do so much zaddy worshiping. This is why there's that disconnect. This is why Umar Johnson told me, yo, we are going to lead the way, pretty much. They're going to learn the way from us. That's not no cap. That's not no like us trying to be better than them. That's just the truth. Because the unique situation that we've been in, and because we are educated in our history to the point where we can see clearly, this is why they call us woke. This is why she started off this speech by saying she didn't connect with us because we're woke, meaning that we understand what's going on. We understand our environment and our responsibilities. We understand our history as a reference point to where we could be, not just the slavery history and the oppression history. We understand the greatness of our people. And when you know that, you can't be satisfied with being at the bottom.
Show them, because information in Africa, history is completely controlled in Africa. We don't learn history in Africa. Do you know what? Show them the brutality of the empire. Show them the brutality of the slave trade. Just show them. And you know what? If you don't want people from Africa coming to Europe, leave Africa alone.
Now, you know she struck a nerve because they are not clapping. She got too real and they got bothered. Because you see, now the scales are falling from our eyes and we are now seeing these folks for exactly who and what they are and what they're about. And we are not keeping quiet anymore. I heard this was supposed to be a stand-up show and I was like, ain't no way this is a stand-up show. But you know what? Good for her. Good for her for doing this when she did it. They are never interested in these conversations, and to them it's never a right time. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to make any changes because the issues we are complaining about have nothing to do with them, so they do not care. So yeah, if she had to get them during a comedy show, so be it. Good for her. Delainia says, wait to use your platform. Now they may not book her again, but stand on your purpose, queen. You know, it took Africans a while to start peeping the game that these guys are playing, but
yes. And shout out to the sister and the sister that's narrating this. And if you see this, if this is your channel I'm using, hey, I'm gonna give you a sub real quick. I'm gonna give you a like, because this is necessary. It is necessary. Just like we say it's necessary for y'all to call out those who are coons that we call tethers amongst your own, the same way we do to our own. Well, we need to also salute you when you are on code and when you are stand up, and hopefully encourage more of you to speak out. You know, I was having a conversation a few days ago with a lovely young lady, and amongst going over history, went over a lot of different things. And one of the questions that she asked me is something that is often asked and pondered when we think about the greatness that we come from. And the obvious question is, well, how do we fall? If we were so great, how did we fall to somebody who's only a 1/11th of the population? And all empires fall the same. There's two major elements to explain how we fell. I'm gonna make it brief. But one of them is a common thread in all empires that fall. See, most empires, they start off with great ideals: freedom, justice, equality, prosperity, pursuit of happiness. This is like a common thread that most empires start with. But what happens is that over time, the rich get richer, they own more land, the poor gets poorer, they lose their rights, they lose freedoms, they lose the ability to feed their families. Resentment builds in. And then an external force comes to exploit the rift internally going on in this empire. This happened in Egypt. This happened anywhere you could think of where great empires fell. It was first because of internal conflict and then an outside aggregator that chose a side. And the second part is it always collapsed within itself first. So the infighting collapse it, then external forces exploit that collapse. So in other words, it only has happened because too many of our own went against the grain to appease outsiders, usually because of greed or because of them being upset and not being able to work out the rifts within the nation or the empire. Because there's no other way. Divide and conquer is the only way a minority can rule a majority. So when you really put that in perspective, then you understand that if there was more cooperation globally, there is no way we could be being ruled like this. There is no way that a continent that virtually has no resources would be wealthy and would have a higher standard of living for their people, while these mineral rich, resourceful nations have poor populations. Haiti, Jamaica, anywhere in the Caribbean, anywhere in South America, anywhere in Africa, there's enough mineral resources that every single family should be multimillionaires, should be wealthy. But because those resources are being extracted and exploited by Western powers, you see crumbling infrastructure and people starving and then living in poverty when there's mineral resources right under their feet. So the dynamics can change with more cooperation. So even though we now look at Pan-Africanism as a failed project, is because there was never enough cooperation. It was always one-sided. It was always us reaching out to them, but like she said, they didn't have a reference point to understand where they were coming from or their history. So because of that, it didn't resonate and they didn't feel that connect. They didn't understand that there was an oppression that they needed to fight against. But we too late in the game to not have that understanding now. But we're also too late in the game to participate in a one-sided relationship. So I'm saying get y'all weight up.
Trust me, we are slowly catching up. And social media has been doing a very good job in helping us open our eyes to the BS that exists in this world.
Another fact, social media, new black media, has been doing a good job helping people wake up. We've been waking ourselves up. And because we're so influential and trendsetters, others are starting to grasp. And as long as that continues to happen, we can make progress. But one thing as FBAs is we cannot rely on anyone else. It has to be us. We're all we got, we all we need. However, if and when our extended family are ready to get on the same page and work collaboratively, we here.
But you see, all of that is changing right now because we, the youth, are changing the narrative. Like onions, we are taking down the layers of lies and we're showing our people, look, these folks are not who they said they are. Personally, I am not a fan of TikTok, but I must confess that I love the work that the youths are doing on the platform. Like, there is so much inaccuracy in the history that we were taught in schools. For some of us, we did not learn about colonization and slavery at all, while for others, when it was taught to us in such a way that we viewed the colonizers as saviors. Like, it wasn't taught in a way that would...
Think about what she just said. Once again, she's saying that they don't learn their history like that. See, this is why it's so important for new black media. This is why it's so important for institutions that are grassroots, that will preserve the history. This is why they want to take, or they want to go against CRT, or critical race theory. Because it exposes who they are. It gives people a reference point, those who didn't know. It fuses that disconnect. And when that happens, remember, we are 1 billion strong, 1 billion plus strong, collectively. Black people, those of African descent, those who are Negroids. Even though we're a unique brand of our own here, we're still connected to the rest. And collective collaboration means that we're 1 billion strong plus. That's what that means. And that means those who puppeteer and engineer the divide are exposed. A minority can only rule a majority through divide and conquer. And that's the ability, that's the capability, that's the potential that we have with our own platforms to inform and to control our own narrative.
Would make us see colonization as the crime against humanity that it actually is. It was taught in such a way that we saw colonization as a blessing, as something that we should be grateful for that it happened. And that's because the curriculum that we still use in Africa till this day is literally the curriculum that was drafted out by the colonizers. We only got to know later as adults that all of those things we learned while we're in school were either lies and or half-truths. Like she said, if they don't want Africans going to their country, they should show their true colors, because trust me, if as a collective we saw these people for what they truly are and what they are about, we would be moving differently. Because for those of us that know and already peep the game that they are playing, we move differently already. So imagine if the majority of us knew. But you see, they don't want to show their true colors. They want to be able to do their undercover evil and then come physically and act like good people. After committing so much atrocities, now they want to be angels and saviors and act as if they did not do what they did in the past. They want to sweep everything under the rug and hide their true identity and history.
So you see, now you see why it's so important for us to continue to push the line and to continue to use our platforms to inform and to lay down the blueprint and to check those who come against us, whether they look like us or not, and to call them out and expose them. And you can clearly see that people are listening and paying attention, and they're starting to gravitate and to adopt our lingo. This is the influence that we have. And this is why they had to corrupt and usurp hip hop. Because remember, hip hop, this was hip hop, informing, mobilizing, educating. This is why they had to switch the vibration to sex, drugs, murder, with no balance. This is why the only popular hip hop artists now or rap artists now are the ones that's talking the bullshit. This is why the only women MCs or rappers you see are the Glorillas and the Cardi B's and the Nicki Minaj's. This is orchestrated to push a particular narrative that is not empowering. In fact, it's the exact opposite.
Like they were so proud of themselves when they were committing all of those atrocities in the past, and they benefited from them. But now they want nothing to do with their past. They are hiding history, sugarcoating and whitewashing stuff. And they are doing all of this so they can go down in history as good, nice people that saved the world. For example, I heard in America that they do not want to be teaching slavery in schools anymore, so they are moving to change that. Like they want to erase their true history. They want to turn a new leaf without actually turning a new leaf. And I find it very ironic, because if you think what you did in the past is so bad to the point where you obviously want to run away from it, why not change your ways in the present? But no, they do not want to change their ways. They want to be able to profit off of all this negativity, toxicity, all of this evil. They want to be able to profit all of it, not change, and still have the image of an angel, and still have the image of savior, and still have the image of good people. Like if you want to change, but you see these folks, they do not want to change. They want the benefit of being perceived by others as light when they are actually the contrary, the opposite of light. But you see, they can try, but that won't happen now, would it? Like a friend of mine was telling me recently, they are losing their popularity, and the world is now seeing them for what they truly are. He even went as far as to say that they did not know that social media was going to turn out to be what social media is today, and that if they had known, they would have shut the whole thing down when it started.
There will come a time where no amount of dollars will be able to make up for what is lost and what is broken. Colonizers go to war with nature and call it a business opportunity. I tell you that even our dead have drowned in their graves, and you ask me to be polite. You tell me to give you a little bit more benefit of the doubt. You take and take and take until we've birthed our babies into the same water as our dead. And even then, you gather like vultures and feed on our helplessness. In your charity, you make profit. I tell you that there has been a massacre, and the land will never be the same. The soil will never grow the same. The hum of mosquitoes has changed the color of the sky, and the sickness of your greed will haunt you in every single lifetime. And you tell me about a new UN proposition. Aisha, you've got to be a little more practical. And still, 100 dead, 200 dead, 1,500 dead. No negotiation will bring them back to life. I want the world leaders to know that the earth has a memory, and one day it will be your home, your family, your land. I pray and I hope you make the right choice. You cannot negotiate with nature.
The only thing I'm gonna say I disagree with is the fact that ain't nothing wrong with prayer, ain't nothing wrong with intention, ain't nothing wrong with that. But we cannot depend on them changing. We have to make them change. That's what it boils down to. It's the actions. So I'm going to leave this. I'm going to end this. I want y'all to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Fill the comments up. But the purpose of this video was just to show as much smoke as we give to these tethers. And I'll be the first one to give them smoke. A tether is not someone just because they are an immigrant or not an FBA. A tether is someone who is unliking themselves to being what we would call a coon or a sellout. Those who go against the grain, those who try to undermine. We do have brothers and sisters in the diaspora. We do have brothers and sisters on the continent in the Caribbean. We do. But we need more of this from y'all. We need y'all to call out your detractors and to start speaking like this and start moving in unison and cooperation and backing our play. But I'm going to end it just with the beginning of this sister's speech, just so once again, if you're just joining, you could understand where they're coming from and understand why we see the opposition that we do see.
You know, I used to hang out with Black Americans. But you know what surprised me most is that I felt no connection with Black Americans, and that surprised me. Now I know, at the time I didn't. You know, I felt no connection with Black Americans because you know what? Black Americans were woke. You know, Black Americans had looked at their oppressor in the face. They had tunnel vision, just like Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela looked at his oppressor in his face, and you know what? He had tunnel vision. They knew what was bringing them down. In Africa, we don't have tunnel vision. We don't know what is oppressing us. Because you know what? Because slavery just changed. It didn't go away, it just changed. So most people in Africa, we feel oppressed. We don't know what is oppressing us, you see. Those children in the Congo that are mining all of the coltan with their bare hands, they don't know that at the top of the chain is a white man.
And they don't know that because those who are running the country look like them, but they're running it on behalf of European puppet masters. And that also explains why some of them have so much opposition to us, because internally they're fighting with the fact that they're seeing us struggle and fight something that they should be doing, but a lot of them are too cowardly to do it. So that's why they resist against us, because some of them can't look in the mirror and just say, yo, it's what it is. So when they see us striving and making progress, even though we're the minority in this nation and they came from a country where they were the majority and they didn't change that reality, of course they feel some kind of way. But for those who can get it. We with it.
Children that are picking the cocoa, right? They don't actually know that the person at the top is a white man. I found out the farm next to my father's farm now belongs to Unilever. That's right. People in Africa cannot afford to buy land anymore. Do you know why? Because slavery never ended. It still carries on. You know, they dump all their toxic waste all over Africa. All your babies' nappies are all over Africa. People cannot.
Anyway, y'all can run it back. I'm gonna get up out of here. Like I said, I'm gonna be dropping a couple throwback videos from Facebook Lives from years ago. Make sure y'all check that out tomorrow, Thursday, going live on Operation Chaos and bringing more light to the propaganda that they throw at us and why we have so much opposition from the top to the bottom when it comes to our movement for reparations and social justice. Understand that they're never going to show us our victories, y'all. That's up to us. They're only going to show us our defeats. It's up to us to control the narrative and for us to disseminate proper information that will lead to proper mobilization. And understand this as I close. We are making progress. We do have victories, but the greatest victory is yet to come. Liberation Minded Media, Jay Dizzle, I'm out.